The story of Charles Cullen. Childhood traumas can leave a deeper impact on the lives of an individual, but that should not be an excuse to become a notorious psychopath. Today, we will take you through the life of the most diverse serial killer in the history of crime, also known as the Angel of Death. This is a story of Charles Cullen, who was sentenced to 11 consecutive life sentences on March 2nd, 2006, in New Jersey. A mere hospital nurse who killed more than few dozen people in the span of 17 years.
I went into the patient's room sometime later that night or morning and gave the medication to whoever to call.
His murder spree ended with the help of a nurse who risked her own life to catch a monster red-handed in the act of killing, and she was successful. Got justice for more than 40 victims and their family members. Before this, let's know more about the person who dared to commit these horrifying crimes. Early life. Charles was born on the 22nd of February 1960 in West Orange, New Jersey, to working-class parents, Edmund and Florence. Charles' father, Edmund, passed away when he was 7 months old. The family conditions of Cullens were not so well at the time, as Florence, Charles' mother, was the only provider of the family and had to take care of 8 children, which can sometimes be hard for a single parent. Charles was the youngest of 8 siblings. He even told in interviews that he was a late-life mistake of his parents. He was often bullied by his classmates at school and even at his home by his sister's boyfriend. He had records of attempted suicide at the pleasant age of 9 when he took some chemicals from his chemistry lab and drank it with milk. Mother's death. Things took an even darker turn when his mother passed away in a terrible car accident on December 6, 1977, when Charles was in high school. He was not able to see the body of her deceased mother because the hospital had cremated the body before Charles Cullen arrived at the hospital. This had made him distraught as a person, and that wounded him deeply. At 18, he dropped out of high school and joined the Navy. He had passed all the tests, but was very preoccupied with himself to concentrate on the work that was assigned to him. He was posted in a submarine, but soon a lot of complaints erupted against Charles of misconduct. He later told the staff that he did not like taking orders from someone. He was discharged from the Navy soon. Mental problems. At this moment, he got involved into serious alcoholic activities where he started drinking rashly, and at times when liquor was not available, he took illicit chemicals. There is one incident of him drinking a whole bottle of cleaning fluid. All of these habits have affected him psychologically. Another suicide attempt was made by him in 1984, but was admitted in a hospital, which saved his life. After all this fiasco, he applied in the Mountainside School of Nursing. After a few years later, got a job at St. Barnabas Medical Center in Livingston, New Jersey, 1987. He married Adrienne Taub in 1987. His life was safe sailing, or sometimes, but soon his depression came back. Crimes. His murdering spree started around this time. He murdered around 40 people between 1988 and 2003. His first victims is unidentified, which Charles claimed to have murdered around 1988 by inserting Dixakin. His second victim was John Yango. He has also been murdered by giving him inadequate amount of digoxin. Charles behaved oddly after these murders, but he did not fall under any suspicion because this type of behavior was common in the burnt patient ward.
I continued, but I was also careful. I was also deny any time anybody would have asked me.
No one suspected him of any wrongdoings till 1991 when he injected insulin in the IV bags of patients. Consecutively, a lot of patients started to fall seriously ill and the IV bags were sent for inspection, and huge amounts of insulin doses were found. All the nurses of the hospital were interrogated by police. Charles didn't want to go through the investigation and denied talking, so the suspicion fell on him for the first time. Police kept an intensive search on him, but still didn't find any proof. He was suspended from the hospital, and at the same time, the insulin spike in IV medicines stopped. Around this time in 1992, his wife had given divorce to him and took the custody of the children, which further affected Charles' mental health. He left St. Barnabas and joined Phillipsburg. He had a major incident with a coworker. He had trespassed a coworker's house who was leaving with her son now. He was in love with the woman, but because of her odd behaviors, she neglected him and wanted to maintain some distance. He was on a probation for 5 years after this incident. He again took a lot of pills and was admitted into a psychiatrist hospital for some time. His mental health was deteriorating fast. He then joined Warren Hospital, where she tried to murder 91-year-old Helen, who had breast cancer. She was recovering fast, and she was about to leave the hospital the next day. Charles entered Helen's room and told her grandson to leave the room for a while. When Harry, Helen's grandson, came back, no nurse was present in the room. Helen told her grandson Harry that she had been struck with something between her thighs. Harry informed the doctors instantly, but nothing came to avail, and she had soon been given a high dose of Dixicin and she died the next day. She was about to be discharged when she reached this fatal end. The grandson tried to raise questions against the nurse who struck her grandmother, but no proof was found. Behind all of these murders, Charles' substance abuse was skyrocketing. He took drugs and alcohol at an incomprehensible pace, further falling into the midst of an incorrigible, heinous mind of self-loathing and deprivation. In 1994, he joined Hunterdon Medical College. There, he killed 5 more patients. Charles' supervisors found something odd about him, as he was not punctual in his work, and warned him. The significant issue about this case was that Charles was always close to getting caught, but the hospitals never went to authority because they wouldn't want any controversies or litigations being raised against their hospitals. The hospitals would never ever want to risk their credibility amongst former patients and people. In February of 1998, Charles was transferred to Liberty Nursing and Rehabilitation Center in Allentown, Pennsylvania. Here, matters got so serious that Charles tried to break an arm of a patient when he denied taking some medicine. Charles was fired from the hospital, yet no one informed police about these incidences. When he enrolled in St. Luke's Hospital, he ruthlessly killed 5 patients. A nurse found some empty bottles of Dixicin in a garbage can. As Dixicin is not a recreational drug, the nurse became very suspicious. An intensive search led to Charles using the bottles illegally. This time the luck was not on Charles' side. An era of killing was about to get stopped. The St. Luke's Hospital informed the police, and an interrogation team was put on Charles Cullen. Charles had left St. Luke's Hospital and joined Somerset Hospital, where he continued to kill people. He had killed 13 patients in a matter of a few weeks. He was suspected of these murders, but he had accessed the record files of patients whom he was not treating. He had given medicine to people which was not prescribed by the doctor. Slowly, all of these anomalies joined into something concrete to make a case against Charles Cullen. The investigation by the police paced up when Somerset Hospital too had informed police. He was arrested via help of Amy Lonergan. She was a close associate of a friend of Charles, and she agreed to wear a wire to get a confession out of Charles Cullen.
I knew that Amy had helped the police. I strongly suspected that she was wired when she was asking me those questions. So, that didn't stop me having the same opinion of Amy, which is that she's a good nurse, that she's a caring nurse, and that she did it because she felt it was the right thing to do.
He was arrested on 12th December 2003. On December 14th, he admitted to homicide detectives Dan Baldwin and Tim Braun that he had murdered Florian Gall and had attempted to murder Jin Kyung Han, both of whom were patients at Somerset.
You knew it was wrong?
Yes, I did.
At the time?
At the time and later.
Are you sorry what you did?
Yes.
Cullen was sentenced to 11 consecutive life sentences by Judge Armstrong in New Jersey, and he is not eligible for parole until June 10, 2388. All of these murders could have been easily stopped, but the concern was given to the hospitals, not the patients. Hospitals face these kinds of problems, but they don't come out because they would be very harmful to the business and their reputation. Please support the authorities to bring these kinds of issues to light and save the next victim from these harmful perpetrators.